Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Rob from Heroes Avenue. This is going to be our Sunday Reading the Comments video. There are definitely some interesting topics to talk about from our previous comments on our previous videos. But first, we're going to go ahead and cover this news as it relates to Aquaman. And it came out earlier this week, this article. We didn't get to cover it, so we're covering it now. And Aquaman 2, it's quite a ways away right now. So it's coming out in late 2022, and that seems like an eternity from now. But this is obviously one of the most anticipated DCEU movies because it's the most successful so far, surprisingly, right? Where you got you got characters like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman out there, but Aquaman, the character who's the joke of the DC roster for the longest time, made the most money. And it's not surprising why. If you've seen Aquaman, I absolutely enjoyed Aquaman with all of its flaws. And yeah, I can't wait to see where they take this Arthur Curry character. And Jason Momoa is already talking about it. So Jason Momoa is doing his environmental awareness cause right now, and you can definitely check out his YouTube channel to see what he's up to. And he was on the Ellen Show earlier this week too. And I think that's where this quote came from. But you can check out this article from Cineblend if you want to read it fully. But here's what he had to say. I was really passionate to do the second one because it's the first time where it's all on Earth. It's combining land and sea, kind of what I'm doing with this environmental cause. There's no outside aliens destroying Earth, it's us. And so I was excited to get back in there, and so I've been working with our previous writer and getting in there, and we've got a locked story, and we're getting into it. And I think it's going to be like in 2 years or whatever, the beard will be back by then. So he's referencing himself shaving his beard recently. A lot of people were freaking out about that, but I'm sure that thing's going to be growing back by then. But the interesting thing is he is saying that the story is locked, and obviously there's a lot of time from now and 2022, so they could always do some rewrites or whatever. And I definitely think seeing that same writer get a chance to knock out a second one, hopefully he's heard any of the criticism about the dialogue, cleans that up. But really what I want to talk about is the potential storyline of Aquaman 2, and it looks like they're going back to this topic that they touched on in the first Aquaman. This is one of the things I kind of wish, even though the movie was already incredibly long, I wish they could have touched on more, just a little bit more, not that I had an issue with this, but in the movie they talk about how one of Orm's motives for getting back at the land dwellers is because they're destroying our oceans. They're polluting they're polluting the oceans and really harming the environment that the Atlanteans live in, and therefore he wants to get some retribution for that. And obviously the movie didn't go all in on that subject, but I think what's going to happen here is they're really going to go forward with addressing that issue. And it is a big issue here on our Earth, right? Us causing climate change and all that stuff. So I really do hope that they get a chance to really shine a light on that. And I obviously don't want it to overdo it with that, but I'm sure they're going to touch on the subject again, and it's going to be a driving force behind the conflict between the Atlanteans and the land dwellers, whatever you want to call us. So I really do hope we get to see Arthur Curry become that ambassador for the Atlanteans, that key, that connection, the bridge between two people, as they say in the movie. So I'm really hoping we get to see that. We get to see Arthur adopt his king role. And what I think is going to happen, and I'm curious to know what you guys think is going to be, or what story that this movie will adopt. I'm thinking that they're going to adopt multiple storylines, and I think it's going to be kind of like the first one, where it was loosely based off Throne of Atlantis, but it did have other elements of other parts of Jeff Johns' run. I think it's going to be the same thing. And what I'd like to happen is I'd like to see some new characters. So this Worlds of DC, right? This Aquaman in itself is its own world in the DC universe, and I'd like to see his universe fleshed out a little bit more with some new characters. And while they're going to have to change the backstory, and the timeline of when he actually met these characters in the comics, I think introducing characters from the others, his team in the comics that he ran with before the Justice League, I'd like to see some of those characters come into play for this movie. Obviously, again, they're gonna have to change up the timeline and possibly the backstory of some of the characters, but I think it would be awesome to see them in this movie. And I'd also like to see that aspect of the Throne of Atlantis storyline where, hey, we get some of the Atlanteans or the people rebelling, maybe people rebelling against his newfound place as king. Maybe they start to attack the land and maybe all parts of the world. And I'd like to see Aquaman and potentially his new teammates and new friends help in combating that. And I think that would be great. I'd like to see those new characters come through. And really, what's making me want to see that is the concept art that came out. So if you guys haven't seen this, there's unused concept art of the Atlantean invasion. So I'm kind of mixing topics here, but there was concept art from the Aquaman movie that wasn't obviously used. They tended to focus on just the sea battles and what's happening and it made it a little less confusing and convoluted. But I hope they can do that in this movie where we get some land and sea battles. We didn't get to see that aspect of Throne of Atlantis play out on land, and there was concept art. It's actually pretty cool. I'm putting it here on screen now, where you get to see some of these crazy looking alien-looking sea creatures attacking what looks to be Sydney, Australia over here. So you get to see all this crazy stuff. And the most interesting thing, obviously, is this picture right here. And what do you see in this picture? You see the Atlanteans going ham on Sydney, Australia over here. Looks like a lot of destruction. And then you see the arrival of Batman here in his flying fox. And then you see this little blip on the screen right there. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Nope, it's Soups. So the Man of Steel himself is jumping into the fray, and man, that would have been so cool to see. Obviously, that's just us fans, whoever drew this out. I'm not sure if this was really actually in the plans or if this is something that the storyboard artist thought might be able to happen, but. Man, look, imagine if Batman and Superman joined in. Now, I'm trying to be realistic here, and I don't think that in Aquaman 2, Batman and Superman are definitely not going to show up. I think they're definitely going to try to build this world within itself, because they're going to try to spin off a bunch of different movies from this world alone. So I'd like to see the others come into play. I'd like to see his own universe kind of fleshed out, and maybe down the line, some of these characters in the next Justice League movie can come into play as supporting characters, just kind of like what they do. What they have done in kind of like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, where you see these small characters come into play in even if it's the smallest role, So I think that'd be really cool, and I think it'd be a good way to flesh out this Aquaman universe. So to kind of summarize, what I'm hoping to see is them introducing new characters in his team, the others, and I'm also hoping. I'm hoping we see a mixture of storylines with a new storyline, from the Throne of Atlantis. I think there's some plot points you can still take from that story and bring into this movie. And again, I think it's going to be a brand new story overall, and that's what I think. Well, let me know what you guys think. What do you want to see from Aquaman 2? Are there any characters you want to jump into the universe? I know Jason Momoa has said he'd like to see, I think, Wonder Woman or Flash pop in there. That'd be super cool. I don't think it's going to happen, but let me know what you guys think. What are you hoping for with this movie? With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into some of your comments from our previous few videos. So this first comment that we're gonna read, it comes from my video yesterday, talking about how there's a rumor that Idris Elba is going to be playing Deathstroke, and obviously that's gonna raise a lot of questions with people. So Doug Guerra says, "Why does DC insist on tormenting me with this man? If he's available, he should be Jon Stewart Green Lantern, a far superior, far more significant character with depth, a way with women, superpowers, and military leadership qualities." Man, I could hear the frustration pouring off the screen right there. And you're right, a lot of fans have been calling for Idris Elba to play Jon Stewart, and obviously fans have their own And I'm with you guys. You know, like we have our own desires and expectations that we want to see on screen, but rarely does it ever play out the way we want it. And yeah, we're not going to see him as Jon Stewart Green Lantern. And while I do think that would be awesome, the reason being is because, man, that Green Lantern Corps movie, we haven't heard jack from that in like so long. So I can't even imagine that Warner Brothers is focusing on that right now. I think they're focusing on the movies at hand, and while they have a character or an actor as good as Idris Elba ready to join the universe, they're gonna put him into one of the movies now. So I don't even think they're thinking about really. I think last I heard, Jeff Johns was still writing the movie, so I'm not sure. We know it's gonna be a buddy cop movie. Maybe it changes. I'm not sure, but yeah, it kind of sucks. So we don't know who Idris Elba's playing yet. Rumor is potentially Deathstroke. There was another rumor out there as Bronze Tiger too. So Green Lantern news, I hope we get that soon, man. It's coming closer and closer to 2020, and obviously I think they're going to push the movie back, but I can't wait to hear from that. Mega Wubba says, it's from my previous video too, but it has nothing to do with the video. It says, Rob, here are my top 4 DC villains who should get their own solo movie outside of the DCEU. But he put a question mark but listed his own. So maybe he just wants me to comment on them. So he says 1, Mr. Freeze, 2, Catwoman, 3, Lex Luthor, 4, Lobo. So I think we've talked about it before. Mr. Freeze definitely has an interesting backstory. One that I think was first adapted in the animated series, Batman animated series, and they adopted that into the comics too. So that's pretty cool. Definitely a great backstory. Would I like to see it as a solo movie? I'd probably not. You know, I think it would work well, and I think it could be done well within a Batman movie if they ever put Mr. Freeze into a Batman movie. 2, Catwoman. Oh man. So the reason I'm not really for Catwoman is because they already did a Catwoman movie, and that that's still leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And it was one of the worst superhero movies ever. So obviously, you know, Catwoman's a great character. I'd like to first see her introduced in Batman before maybe even thinking about that. But hey, maybe it's a possibility later on, because Catwoman is definitely an interesting character. Lex Luthor. I'm not sure, man. I think Lex Luthor is his character and his stories tied so closely to Superman that I'd like to see him in a Man of Steel movie or a Superman movie done right. Obviously, we saw what happened and how he left his character in Justice League, and it was becoming more of the Lex Luthor we know. So if only the audience and the studio had a little bit of patience to let Snyder do his thing, it looks like Lex Luthor was becoming the Luthor that we all know and love. And but who knows if we're gonna get to see that Lex Luthor back. Solo movie, yeah, I'm not sure. Lobo, I think there is supposed to be a Lobo movie. Remember when DC was announcing a million other movies, they talked about how there was gonna be a Lobo movie, and yeah, you know, funny enough, Jason Momoa looks like the Lobo himself, so I'm not sure if this movie's ever going to get made. Maybe he's too obscure right now for DC. I think right now DC needs to stop making, this is just my opinion, my fan opinion, you know, I'm not an expert or anything. I'd like to see them focus on the core Justice League roster first before spinning off into any more villain movies. And I think the Joker is an exception to the rule, man. The Joker just transcends you know, superheroes in general, and the pop culture knows who the Joker is. So I think that's why it works for Joker getting his own solo movie. But I'm not really for getting those movies yet. But I could be wrong. I've been proven wrong a lot by you know, what studios put out and stuff that I enjoy that I never would have thought that I'd enjoyed. So moving on. You Can't Hide Forever's gaming channel says, sorry, but I want my superheroes to be powerful for me to comprehend. I want DC to bring back the type of fights we got in Man of Steel, buildings crumbling, heroes and villains getting hit so hard, shockwaves come out, displays of godly power. Watching Marvel movies, I never felt that threat was something the world's army couldn't handle. Thanos, the big bad of their universe, can bleed from just getting hit by hard metal. So theoretically, lots of bigger guns would end him or come close. And he is actually commenting on a video that we did like a year ago, in which Joe and Anthony Russo, the Infinity War and Endgame directors and Civil War directors, they talked about how DC characters were unrelatable and why they were such Marvel fans and fans of Marvel characters. And that sparked a huge conversation on our channel about, you know, why a lot of people were hating on them off the bat. But I think yeah, while I totally disagreed with their comments, I think they're speaking, even though they're stating it as a matter of fact, they're kind of speaking more to their opinion because it's obviously subjective, right? If they relate more to Marvel characters, that's cool, but there's definitely a huge population out there, myself included, that have an affinity for these DC characters. And while I enjoy a lot of the Marvel characters and I really enjoy the Marvel movies too, I just have my preference, and I tend to favor the DC characters, DC comics. They're my favorite to read and favorite to watch. So definitely, I definitely like what you have to say here. There's going to be plot holes in all types of, movies. Even in DC movies in the future, there's going to be some plot holes where, hey, couldn't you kill the bad guy like this or whatever? But I think the more interesting thing to talk about, one, we already talked about, hey, the differences and relatability of the DC and Marvel characters. But yeah, I like how you hit on the action, which is one of the defining characteristics of the DCEU so far. The action has just been incredible for the most part. Maybe Shazam was not as focused on action because of its budget, but yes, you talked about you wanted superhero movies to go back to the type of fights we had in Man of Steel. Just this epic building collapsing, world destruction type of action. And there are people who are not fans of that. I was a huge fan of that because that's what it would feel like if superheroes were actually in our world. You think, especially given in the context of that movie where Superman was Superman for like a day, not fully in control of what his powers. He's fighting his last remaining relative, and he's people had some crazy expectations on, hey, no one should die in this type of battle, but yeah, I am totally for that. Definitely action is one of the defining characteristics of the DC universe, thanks in large part to the man Zack Snyder. That Batman fight scene, incredible. But yeah, what do you guys think is a defining characteristic? I know we got a lot of DC fans in here. What is the defining characteristics in DC movies that really resonate with you guys the most? And if we got the Marvel fans in here, maybe you guys mention that for your favorite Marvel movies as well. What are the defining characteristics that really draw you into the universe or to that movie? Let me know in the comments below, because that's a really interesting conversation there. But I'm with you right here. Let's go. Harag Farah says, the universe is doing okay in my opinion, but imagine with no meddling from WB, we could have had Thanos and Darkseid appear in separate movies in the same year. Thanks, Sujihara. Yeah, man, that's crazy. If we just stuck to the same plan, there would have, this year would have been the most epic year. It's already a pretty epic year, I'm not complaining, there was times where comic book movies sucked, and those were definitely the dark ages, but we could have had them both in the same year, and thanks to meddling from Warner Brothers. And then Sujihara, we know, is out, so we got Walter Amada. Hopefully that guy's leading us the right way. We won't know for another few years, so that sucks. Definitely sucks. Oscar Oluwade says, Jesus Christ, that eye scene is going to haunt me. And he's talking about the Brightburn clip reaction that Darren did. Yeah, that eye scene where that glass is stuck in her eye. Oh my God, I was cringing while watching that. Oh my gosh. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, that was just a genuine horror moment for me. I'm excited to watch it. Tony Wick says, nice little dark tribute to Man of Steel, my favorite comic book movie. Very cheeky though, the use of font and the halftime version of the Zimmer theme. I didn't even notice that. I'm gonna have to re-watch the Brightburn extended clip to see that. I didn't even realize that the font, and it was a halftime version of Hans Zimmer's theme. My favorite comic book movie right now too as well, Man of Steel, and the Hans Zimmer theme. I love that theme. I work out. I'm about to hit the gym in a second too. I'm about to be putting that theme on repeat. That's crazy. I need to re-watch that clip. Thanks for pointing that out. Ahmed Alohansani, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, buddy, but he says, in regards to Batman casting, Drew Roy looks just like Ben Affleck. The Batman will be a younger version of Ben Affleck. Okay, Drew Roy. Let's see. Drew Roy. Who's Drew Roy? What is he talking about? Drew. Oh my gosh. So this is in regards to the Batman casting, who he'd like to see. And you're right, Drew Roy. This guy looks exactly like Ben Affleck when he was younger. And then he has been in TV shows like Falling Skies, Disney's Secretariat. Didn't see that movie, so I haven't seen a lot of the stuff he's been in, and he's more of an obscure, maybe he just less of a well-known actor so far. But wow, he does look like a spitting image of Ben Affleck while he was young. And I know you don't cast just because of looks, but man, if he has the acting chops, man, I'd be for Drew Roy. Thanks for adding that onto our list. That's awesome. Shin Akage, if I'm saying it right. I remember you commented about your name. Thanks for doing that. He says, I'm saying it now, this movie is going to do the arc from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. Mysterio comes in, pretends to be a hero, but he's a villain. The Nick Fury he's with is actually the chameleon pretending to be Nick Fury. Wow, crazy. There's a Spider-Man clip that actually came out this week too, an extended clip of Mysterio coming to save Peter Parker. Looks pretty cool. But we're all really questioning whether or not Mysterio is actually from a different Earth, different universe. And so we got a longtime cartoon fan here who remembered that specific storyline. And I need to check that out. I hope it's on YouTube because that sounds super interesting. Yeah, and we all know that Mysterio is going to end up being the bad guy, but Nick Fury being Chameleon, that'd be crazy. That'd be a crazy twist. And they did mention that there is going to be a huge twist in this movie. Maybe that's it, and that makes sense. That's it for today's Reading the Comments, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you throwing all those comments in. Sorry I couldn't get to everybody. I'm going to try to go ahead and respond to as many as I can, but I am reading everyone's comments. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Share it with friends and family, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.